Hello again. This week we're looking at Unit 3. Our task this week is to look at the book of Jeremiah, look at its history, both in terms of the historical aspect of it, but look at also some of the critical issues related to Jeremiah. There are some different issues that we need to deal with when we're looking at Jeremiah. There's some problem areas, if you will, that we need to look at. We don't have to necessarily answer all of those, but we at least need to be aware of those issues. 5 issues that are critical issues there. One is simply the call of Jeremiah. There we're looking at not so much the date, but what's going on in that call. Another issue is Jeremiah's view of Josiah's reform. It's interesting that Jeremiah is called in the 13th year of Josiah, which is 627. Josiah's reform is 621. And then Josiah dies in 609. So there's several years of Jeremiah's ministry after the reform of Josiah, but Jeremiah does not even mention the reform. And the question is, why not? Josiah was a good king. Jeremiah is a prophet of God. You would at least expect Jeremiah to mention it in some way, and yet he doesn't. So the question is why? Another issue is the foe from the north. We see this in chapter 1, we see it in later chapters. Who is this foe from the north? What are the issues related to that? For me, one of the major issues of Jeremiah is when we compare the text, the Hebrew text of Jeremiah, with the Greek text, the Septuagint text of Jeremiah, there is a vast difference in the size of it. In fact, the Greek version of Jeremiah is some 2,700 words fewer than the Hebrew text. And the question is, what's going on? Why do we have that discrepancy? That's a major issue, not so much in terms of theological aspect. The theology is the same. But what's going on there? The final critical issue is how Jeremiah came to be, the composition of it, the development of the book. One thing that we recognize very early in Jeremiah is that it is not chronological, and I'll talk later about that aspect of it. But how is it arranged? That's an issue that we need to deal with. Another difficulty, not dealing just with Jeremiah, but prophetic books generally, is we expect to be able to read through a prophetic book and recognize, okay, Jeremiah is preaching in a context in this place, but in another place he's preaching in a totally different context. And sometimes one of the prophecies ends and there's no introduction to the next prophecy. In other words, we're not sure where one prophecy ends and another prophecy begins. And if we're not savvy to what's going on there, we can, in our preaching and teaching, we can preach the end of one oracle and the beginning of a totally different oracle, and in effect we are misunderstanding what's going on. So one of the key issues in any prophetic book is trying to determine the limits of an oracle, the boundaries of an oracle, so that we're preaching or teaching one oracle and not two halves of two different ones. So that's one of the things that we have to deal with in any prophetic book. And so In our discussions this week, again, read the material that I've indicated. Go through the slides that I've narrated, and then discuss in the discussion board. So have a good week.